صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا رأيت شحا مطاعا وهوى متبعا ودنيا مؤثرة وإعجاب كل ذي رأي برأيه فعليك بنفسك خاصة أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the glorious Quran mentions a very important message. And that message is that each and every one of you, you should be concerned about yourselves. And those who have gone astray, those who have been misled by shaitan and their nafs, if you are on the right path, then they will not be able to harm you. In this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala very beautifully is directing our attention towards the important aspects of life, and is instructing us to stay away from those things which are non-relevant. In today's day and age, the main discussion which we hear time and again is about others, what other people are doing, what's happening in other countries, what is the condition of other people in other countries, what is the condition of rulers, what is the condition of so-and-so person, so-and-so governor, so-and-so minister. Every time we have the word others on our tongue, and someone else is being discussed apart from our own self. This has reached a point where to even talk about the self is seemed as abnormal. And we don't find enjoyment in our conversations. We don't find enjoyment in our gatherings unless we are talking about someone else, and usually that someone else is a government, their ministers, and their policies. Yet, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very beautifully directing our attention towards the fact that if you are living in a society where there are righteous people and there are non-righteous people, there are good people, there are bad people, there are those people who want to practice the deen, and then there are those people who don't want to practice the deen. Rather, those who are practicing the deen, they are discouraged from practicing the deen through various type of messages, through various type of dialogues, through various types of actions. So if this is the case, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, these individuals who have been misled by shaitan, who have been misled by their nafs, and just as our respected Mufti Sahib was mentioning after the Isha Salah, some people have been misled by their intellect. Their intellect takes control of their decisions, and their decisions are based solely on their intellect and not on the Quran and Hadith. The intellect beautifies certain actions, certain commands, and those actions which are beautiful in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are not as attractive as they should be, because the intellect does not digest such things. In the same manner, the intellect, nafs, and shaitan, they beautify those actions which are the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah's beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned in the hadith, "Hujibatil nar bishahawat wa hujibatil jannatu bil makarih." Jannah, or rather Jahannam, is covered with all of those things which are disliked. These are the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Every single thing which the nafs dislikes, Jahannam is, Jannah is covered with all those things which one dislikes, which one finds difficult. For example, wearing the thobe, Islamic clothing, wearing a cap, wearing a jubba, having an Islamic beard, and conducting yourself in public. This is not an easy task. This is very difficult, especially for those who are not used to it. And those who are used to it, they even wear these clothing in their work circles. And for most of them, for majority of the people, they get respect, not disrespect, rather they get respect. But nonetheless, on the outside, it seems like it's a very difficult task. So Jannah is covered with this one task. Another task, Jannah is covered with performing 5 times daily salawat. Jannah is covered with abstaining from every single haram act. Jannah is covered with this difficulty of doing your own research and figuring out whether this item is halal or whether this is haram. So these are all tasks, these are all veils by which Jannah is covered. All difficult tasks. And then the list continues. Fasting in the month of Ramadan for long periods of time. Staying hungry. Staying thirsty. Again, this is a veil which is covering Jannah. So let's assume there are 10 veils which are covering Jannah. These 10 veils are very difficult tasks. So our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has mentioned that Jannah is covered with all of these difficult veils and these difficult tasks. Behind these difficult veils, one will see and one will find Jannah. On the contrary, وَحُجِبَتِ النَّارِ Jahannam is covered with all those things which appease the nafs, which a person is inclined towards. For example, backbiting, this is one veil that Jahannam is covered with because it's enjoyable. Misusing the eyes is another veil. Misusing the tongue, lying, deceiving, saying whatever comes to a person's mind, hearing whatever he wishes, seeing whatever he wishes. And for some, may Allah protect, misusing their private parts and indulging themselves in zina. So this is a veil. And Jahannam is covered with these veils. To isolate oneself into the environments of only halal. Again, to enjoy oneself and to destroy Allah's commands. Again, this is a veil. To consume haram. This is another veil. So Jahannam is covered with all these veils, all these enjoyable items, all these things which a person on the outside does enjoy. So from a non-Islamic perspective, there's no concept of halal and haram. And from an Islamic perspective, there's a concept of halal and haram. So all of these things, enjoyable things, they are covering Jahannam. And all of these dislikable things are covering Jannah. So the Prophet ﷺ is telling us, if a person was to just make this small sacrifice, behind these sacrifices, behind these veils, is Jannah. And if a person is unable to make those sacrifices, and he enjoys himself now, behind these enjoyable curtains is Jahannam. And this is a concept which we can understand in this very life. If a person is not considerate in respect to his food and diet, when he reaches the age of 40, that's when the past 20, 30 years of malnutrition then starts to kick in. And many people who have reached the age of 40 or who have surpassed the age of 40, they will attest to this fact and they will say that I had diabetes right at the age of 40. This didn't start at the age of 40, it started way before the age of 40. It was manifested at the age of 40 because Allah has made the body's physiology in such a way that when a person reaches the age of 40, either all the illnesses and ailments catch up to him, or his good health remains with him. So in the same manner, if a person is able to control his nafs, combat his nafs, makes this sacrifice now, when this person passes away, ultimately Allah will give this person Jannah. And if this person is unable to control his nafs, and he's enjoying himself right now, it may seem that everything that this individual is doing is very enjoyable, but a time will come when this person will crash. In this verse, Allah is teaching us alaykum anfusakum. Worry about yourselves. Worry about your Islam. Worry about your Sharia. Worry about your beliefs. Worry about your outer actions. Worry about your inner actions. The same message is portrayed by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the hadith, which I mentioned earlier. That when you see إِذَا رَأَيْتَ شُحًّا مُطَاعًا, when you see the love of wealth overpowering Allah's commands. This means Allah's commands are important, but the love of wealth is more important. So Allah's commands are important. This means that a person has to be mindful of halal and haram. But love for wealth, if love for wealth is more important, this individual, he will break those boundaries and he will not keep in mind the boundaries of halal and haram, and he will consume and earn how much ever he wants, whatever he wants, at the expense of his deen. Now there's no more salah. Now there's no care at home whether halal is coming or haram is coming. Now there is no care for even Hajj. And may Allah protect some people, they perform Hajj with haram income, with haram sustenance, because the entire life style is based on haram. So when you see the love of wealth overpower Allah's commands, this is the first point which the Prophet ﷺ has mentioned. What should a person do? That will be mentioned at the end. The second point he mentions, hawan muttaba'an. And when you see a person's desires overpowering Allah's commands, and when you see the world being given preference over the hereafter, and when you see that each and every single individual is giving preference to his own opinion in today's day and age, this is a very common trait. Everyone believes that he is right. His opinion is right. His statement is the final statement. His opinion is the final opinion. Whatever he studied, whatever he read, whatever he came across, it is right, and everyone else is wrong, especially in dini matters. And many people even say, can you please provide evidence? Can you please provide proof for what you just said? So the question is, there's nothing wrong with providing evidence and proof, but do we question a doctor? And do we ask a doctor, can you please provide evidence and proof for your treatment? The answer is obvious, that a patient has no right to ask a doctor that can you please provide evidence, unless the patient is becoming a doctor himself. So if this is a condition, the Prophet ﷺ has mentioned, فَعَلَيْكَ بِنَفْسِكَ خَاصَّةً. In these circumstances, hold fast to yourselves. Worry about yourselves. Worry about your own condition. Worry about your salawat. Worry about your hajj. Worry about your salawat. Worry about your fasting. Worry about your zakat. Worry about your disobedient life. Every single companion, every single tabi'i, every single faqih, every single righteous individual, this was at the forefront of his mandate. Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu, he would say that inna hadha awradin al-mawari. He would point towards his tongue and say that my tongue has landed me in destruction. Who is saying this? The best human being after the Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam. So it's among the beliefs of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah that Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu was the greatest Sahabi. He is saying that my tongue has landed me in destruction. So if he is saying this, what is our condition? So how can he say this, and why are we unmindful of our condition? That's because these individuals, they made their own selves their objective. They were concerned about themselves rather than what was happening with others. Umar bin Khattab radiyallahu anhu, he asked Hudhayfa bin Yaman, but is my name, Umar, is my name on the list of the hypocrites? Did Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mention my name, Umar? And did he include my name in the list of munafiqeen? Like, is this even possible for us to ask in today's day and age? So how could Umar bin Khattab ask this about himself? Again, these individuals were worried about themselves. Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah that he used to say, "Uhibbu salihin, walastu minhum, la'alli an alala bihim shafa'a." That I love the righteous people, I love pious people, but unfortunately, I am not among them. Who is saying this? Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala. In today's day and age, those who are not so pious, they believe they are the most pious person in the masjid, the most pious person in their family household, the most pious person in their friend circle. So Imam Shafi'i is saying, I love pious people, I love righteous people, but unfortunately I am not among them. I hope in the hereafter that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant me their companionship, and I hope that Allah will grant me their intercession. Muhammad bin Wasi' rahimahullah ta'ala. Again, these examples, they show how or what importance our pious predecessors would give to themselves. Muhammad bin Wasi', I was shocked when I read this statement. He would say that if sins, if disobediences, if they had a bad odor, then no one would come near me because of my disobediences and my foul odor. So if disobediences had foul odor, a bad odor, then I am so sinful that no one would come near me. My friends, how does this state develop? This state only develops when a person, he works on himself. He works on his heart. He works on the self. He works on his inner actions, his outer actions. He concentrates towards himself. Ibrahim Nakha'i, he was the teacher of the teacher of Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah. Imam Abu Hanifa's teacher was Hamad bin Abi Sulaiman. And Ibrahim Nakha'i rahimahullah, he was the teacher of Hamad bin Abi Sulaiman. So he was born in the 50th year of Hijrah. Some say he met Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala when he was a young child, when he was a young boy. Nonetheless, he was a great tabi'i, a faqih. He used to say that I would never ever speak if I didn't have to. And then he would say, people consider me to be the greatest faqih of Kufa. This is not because of my own achievement. This is not because of my own skills and talent. This is because times have changed and times have become corrupt. Therefore, today, Ibrahim Nakha'i rahimahullah has become the greatest faqih. My respected brothers, if we are classified as the most pious person in our masjid, the most pious imam, the most pious sheikh, the most pious brother, the most pious person in our circle, will we attribute this to the corruption of the modern day times? Or would we say that, yes, indeed, I deserve this, and I am as people claim me to be as? Muhammad bin Aslam at-Tusi, he used to say that the most wretched person performing salat towards the Qibla is none other than me. Alaykum anfusakum. Alayka bi khasati nafsik means be concerned about yourselves. When a person is concerned about himself, only then will this person be able to progress in his dini matters. Inshallah, I will stop here. I'll just recap very quickly. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has instructed us to focus on ourselves, on our own self-development, on our hearts. And this can only happen when a person has concern, number one. Number two, two things will aid and assist a person. That is remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because that acts as a cleaning agent for the heart. Number three, the company of those people who do have concern about themselves. This will help an individual greatly. And number four, a person thereafter, he has to do the mujahada, he has to struggle, He has to stay away from all those things which are detrimental towards himself, his iman, his islah, his tazkiyah, and carry out all those things which our beloved Sahaba radiyallahu anhum carried out, Salaf Salihin carried out. And this is not a difficult task. It's not a difficult task. It's a very easy task. It's just that shaitan and nafs make it seem difficult so that a person, his attention is not towards this path, and rather his ultimate objective is to take a person away from this path. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us to combat our nafs. May Allah enable us to overcome all these struggles. And may Allah enable us to acquire His love and His pleasure. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله صدق الله العظيم. Inshallah, before we disperse, just a kind reminder, if we can engage in the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Again, if someone is in a hurry, even on his way out in his vehicle, or whilst walking towards his vehicle, whilst driving, try to be punctual in our dhikr and remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So 100 times istighfar, 100 times salat and salam, and 100 times the first part of the first kalima, la ilaha illallah, or the first part of the third kalima, subhanallahi walhamdulillahi wa la ilaha illallah wallahu akbar. This should be read silently, and the thought process is that Allah is looking at me with love. The fact that Allah enables someone to remember Him, this is a very great bounty, and we should continue this on a consistent basis. Inshallah, Allah will show us the benefits. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make things easy, inshallah. Jazakumullahu khair.